Welcome to the Update Podcast NG. Hey there, amazing listeners. It's time to dive into the biggest stories making waves right now.
All right, let's dive into this Arteta masterclass. I mean, Arsenal, they needed this win, right, to stay in the race with Liverpool. And they had injuries, especially up front. But the way they won, that's what's got everyone talking.
It's one of those things, you see it and think, why hasn't anyone done this before? Arteta, he took Merino, a midfielder, turned him into a striker, and it just boom, boom, changed the game. And we've got these two articles here, both about the match, and they both point out just how unexpected this was.
Merino up front, yeah. And he scored 2 goals. But here's the thing that really got me. Merino said after the match that he had never played striker before. Ever. I was like, what?
Sounds like Arteta had this planned. One of the articles actually says that he talked to Merino that morning, told him he might play up front. Imagine that pressure.
Okay, so let's rewind a bit. Set the scene. Arsenal, they weren't playing their best. Their attack wasn't clicking. And Leicester, even though they're near the bottom, they were fighting hard. What's interesting is that Arteta didn't sub Merino in for midfield. He took Sterling out and put Merino up top. You could almost see the confusion in the stadium.
Bold move, for sure. But look at what happened. 6 minutes, 2 goals. First, a header, powerful, from a cross by Ethan Nwaneri. And then a perfect finish, assist from Trossard.
17-year-old Nwaneri putting on a show like that, outshining Sterling. That's got to tell you something about this kid's future, right?
Well, I wouldn't say outshining, exactly. Sterling has some chances. But what Nwaneri did at 17, remarkable. That cross to Merino. He didn't just, kick it in the air. He put it exactly where it needed to be, with pace, with accuracy. That takes real talent, real vision.
Yeah, maybe I got a little carried away with the outshining, but still, Nwaneri at 17 making that kind of impact. Wow.
Totally. And then there's the question, is this how Arteta fixes his striker problem? Or is this a one-time thing?
Because you've got Arsenal, right? Keeping the pressure on Liverpool at the top. And Leicester, they're still in that relegation zone. Van Nistelrooy, the Leicester manager, he said the game came down to fine margins, which I thought that was interesting.
He's got a point. Leicester had their chances to score first, but they couldn't finish. And let's be real, Leicester has lost 9 out of their last 10 home games in the Premier League. That's a rough home record.
No kidding. So fine margins, yeah. But maybe a bit of a home curse, too.
Maybe. But what Van Nistelrooy is also saying is that sometimes just one substitution, one change, can turn a whole game around.
And in this case, that one change was Arteta putting Merino up front. Some people are comparing Merino to Fellaini, who also moved from midfield to forward.
Yeah, and Arteta, he was quick to shut that comparison down.
He was, and I get it. Fellaini, he was all about power, like a battering ram. But Merino, Arteta said he has a smell for danger. He anticipates where the ball is going.
Exactly, and that's what you need in a striker. Being in the right spot at the right time. It's not just about being big and strong.
It makes you think, right? Was this pure genius from Arteta or just, a lucky break? Can Merino actually be a striker week in, week out, or was this a one-time thing?
Big question, yeah. I think we need to look at this from a few angles. First, tactics. Arsenal, they were using that 4-3-3, right? With Merino usually in the midfield.
So when Merino went up front, what happened? How did that change things?
Well, it meant Arsenal still had a strong midfield with the other two guys. But now they also had something different in attack. Merino, with his height, his physicality, he gave them that threat in the air, which they've been missing, especially with Gabriel Jesus injured.
Oh, I see. So it wasn't just about Merino himself. It was about how his presence up front changed how Leicester had to defend.
Yeah, exactly. Leicester's center backs, they're used to smaller, quicker forwards. Suddenly they've got Merino to deal with, this powerful guy in the air. And you could see they didn't know what to do. Both of Merino's goals, they came from crosses, right? That shows you Leicester couldn't handle him in the box.
Makes sense. And if you think about how Leicester usually defend, they press high, try to win the ball in the midfield. But Merino being higher up, that messed up their press.
Right, because Merino was basically skipping past that midfield press, forcing Leicester to, change their defense on the fly, and they weren't ready for it.
So Arteta's move, it was like a domino effect. It messed up Leicester's plan and played right into Arsenal's strengths.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But the question is this a long-term solution for Arsenal?
Right, because if this wasn't just luck, this could change everything for Arteta, for Arsenal.
Absolutely. If Merino can keep playing well as a striker, Arteta's got all these new options, tactically. And it could affect who he buys, Maybe he doesn't need a new striker if Merino could do the job.
And what about Merino himself? Could this be a turning point in his career?
It could be, yeah. He's always been a good, solid midfielder, but this could be what, takes him to that next level.
Scoring 2 goals your first time as a striker, that's got to be huge for his confidence. I'm really curious what Arteta does next. Does he keep Merino up front, or was this just a brilliant, one-time thing?
We'll have to see in the next few games. If Merino keeps playing well like this, Arteta might have found something really special.
This whole thing just goes to show you can never predict what's going to happen in football.
And it shows you need a manager who's willing to, try something different, something unexpected. And in this case, it worked out big time for Arteta.
It makes you wonder, are other managers going to start, looking at their midfielders and thinking, could he be my next striker?
Yeah, it's possible. Arteta has shown us that sometimes the best ideas are the ones that come out of left field, right? But it's not just about copying the tactic. It's got to be the right player, the right situation.
Right. What works for Arteta and Merino might not work for everybody. And speaking of Merino, what about him? I mean, this could be a big deal for his career, right? Imagine if he starts scoring goals regularly. Could we see him, challenging for the Golden Boot someday?
That's probably a bit far-fetched. But who knows? The exciting thing is that this has opened up so many possibilities for him. He's not just a midfielder anymore. He's a player who can play in different positions and do it well.
That kind of versatility, it's like gold in football these days. Makes him more valuable to teams. Could even mean a bigger paycheck, right?
Definitely. And don't forget the mental side of things. Scoring those 2 goals, that must have been a huge confidence boost for Merino. It could be what pushes him to that next level.
Like Arteta unlocked some hidden potential, right? And it makes you think, what other hidden talents are out there in other players that we haven't even thought about?
That's what's so great about football. There's always room for surprises, for new ideas, for players and managers who challenge how things are usually done. And sometimes those bold moves, they pay off in a big way.
So I think it's safe to say that this Arteta masterclass, it's given us a lot to think about. Unexpected moves can be the best moves. Young players like Nwaneri can step up on the big stage, and players like Merino, well, they can surprise us.
It's a reminder that football is always changing. What we think we know today, it could be totally different tomorrow.
Exactly. So everyone, keep your eyes open, be ready for anything, because you never know what brilliant tactic or amazing player we'll see next.